You ever meet someone who thinks they know your whole life just by looking at you? Like they take one glance at your scars, your missing teeth, your nervous smile, and suddenly they think they've earned the right to judge you? Yeah. That happened to me in a dentist's waiting room. What started as a normal appointment turned into one of the most uncomfortable moments of my life. And one mother learned a lesson she will probably never forget. Because she demanded I scare her child into behaving. And she had absolutely no idea what had actually happened to me. If you enjoy intense Reddit revenge stories with real emotional payoffs, hit subscribe right now. These stories get darker, more uncomfortable, and way more satisfying as they go on. And trust me, this one escalates fast. Part 1. There's something strangely humiliating about sitting in a dentist's office waiting room. Even as an adult, it doesn't matter how old you are, how mature you act, or how calm you try to look. The second you hear that high-pitched dental drill from another room, your body instantly reverts into survival mode. Your shoulders tense, your jaw locks, your stomach twists, and suddenly you're 12 years old again, praying they don't call your name. For me, though, dental offices carried an entirely different level of anxiety. Not because of cavities, not because of needles, not even because of pain. It was because every dental appointment forced me to confront the thing I spent most of my adult life trying to hide. My teeth. Or more accurately, the lack of them. At the time this happened, I was 29 years old and missing my 4 upper front teeth. Not partially damaged. Not chipped. Gone. Completely gone. Most people never noticed at first because I had gotten extremely good at hiding it over the years. Trauma teaches you weird survival skills like that. I learned exactly how wide I could smile without exposing too much. I learned how to laugh while covering my mouth naturally enough that people thought it was a quirky habit instead of a defense mechanism. I learned angles, lighting, lip positioning, the subtle art of avoiding photos. And most importantly, I learned how to avoid questions, because people always ask questions eventually, especially when you're young. Missing front teeth on an older person? People assume age. Missing front teeth on a 20-something woman? People stare. And when people stare long enough, curiosity eventually wins. What happened? That question followed me everywhere. Coworkers, cashiers, friends of friends, Uber drivers, date, especially date. I developed entire fake stories depending on how safe the person felt. Car accident, sports injury, childhood accident, anything except the truth. The truth was too ugly, too personal, too humiliating, and honestly, most people didn't actually want the truth anyway. They just wanted their curiosity satisfied. So I gave them easier answers. Simpler answers, cleaner answers, but dental offices were different. You can't really hide missing teeth from dental professionals. They see everything, every crack, every fracture, every scar, every little piece of damage someone else left behind. And unfortunately, by the time this story happened, I had spent years trapped in an exhausting cycle of temporary fixes, dentures, partial implants, retainers, flippers, endless consultations, endless appointments, endless money. God, the money. Nobody really talks about how insanely expensive it is to repair damage caused by abuse, especially dental damage. Insurance barely covers anything substantial. Every specialist wants thousands. Every consultation comes with another devastating estimate printed neatly on paper, like they're casually describing a kitchen remodel instead of your actual face. I worked 2 jobs for years trying to save enough money for permanent implants. 1 full-time office job. 1 evening remote customer service job. Wake up, work, smile carefully, come home, work again, sleep, repeat. That was my life for years. Every extra dollar went into what I called my teeth fund. Not vacation savings, not retirement, not hobbies, teeth. I remember one night specifically sitting on my apartment floor eating microwaved ramen while calculating whether I could afford another bone graft procedure. I had spreadsheets, literal spreadsheets, columns labeled things like possible crown costs, sedation estimate, temporary prosthetic replacement. Who in their 20s makes spreadsheets about fake teeth? Apparently me. But trauma changes your priorities. And the thing is, the missing teeth weren't even the hardest part. It was the psychological damage, the hyper-awareness, the constant fear that someone would notice. Because people absolutely do notice when your confidence disappears for even half a second. Especially cruel people. Cruel people have radar for insecurity. And over the years, I encountered plenty of them. Like the woman at a grocery store who loudly whispered to her husband, "She's way too young to look like that." Or the drunk guy at a bar who asked if I was part meth head. Or my favorite, the receptionist at a medical office who assumed I was uninsured because, and I quote, "Well, dental situations like yours usually happen with addiction." That one actually made me cry in my car afterward. Not because it was true, because it wasn't, but because after years of surviving abuse, rebuilding your life, working non-stop, and trying desperately to feel normal again, people still reduce you to appearances in seconds, and eventually you stop correcting them. You just get tired. Tired of explaining. Tired of defending yourself. Tired of reopening wounds so strangers can feel temporarily informed. So by the time this happened, I had become very quiet in public. Not rude. Not unfriendly. Just cautious, careful, small. I kept interactions short. I avoided eye contact when possible. And I absolutely hated waiting rooms, because waiting rooms force people into awkward observation mode. Nobody wants to stare directly, so they pretend not to while absolutely doing it anyway. Phones become shields. Magazines become shields. Televisions become shields. Everyone pretending they aren't silently analyzing everyone else. And that dental office waiting room was especially bad because it was tiny. Tiny room. Neutral beige walls. Overly bright fluorescent lights. Like she was examining damage on a used appliance. I tried putting the flipper back in quickly. Almost got it seated. Then the woman spoke. Oh my God. Not quietly either. Loud enough for the room. The older man looked up from his magazine. The teenager removed one headphone slightly. My skin instantly burned. I wanted to disappear. I gave a tight, awkward smile and looked away, hoping embarrassment alone would end the interaction. It didn't. Because apparently some people see vulnerability as an invitation. The little girl kept staring openly now. Kids don't know better. That part didn't bother me. What bothered me was the expression forming on the mother's face. The calculation. Like an idea had just occurred to her. And unfortunately, I was about to become part of it. She leaned closer to her daughter and said loudly, "You see? This is why we brush our teeth." My entire body stiffened. No. Please no. Not this. The little girl blinked in confusion. The mother looked directly at me now. Smiling. But not kindly. It was the smile people use when they think they're being clever. Then she said the sentence that changed the entire atmosphere of that waiting room. "Actually," she said, "maybe you can explain it to her." And suddenly, every nerve in my body went cold. She smiled when she said it. Like she thought she was about to teach her daughter a cute little parenting lesson. Like I was some random cautionary tale she could use for 5 seconds before getting called into her appointment. She had absolutely no idea what she was asking me to say. And the second she realized, everything changed. Before we continue, subscribe if you love slow burn revenge stories that turn painfully real. Because this story doesn't explode all at once. It gets worse step by step. The room went completely still after she said it. "Actually," she repeated with a smug little laugh, "maybe you can explain it to her." Her daughter looked between us with huge curious eyes. The older man lowered his magazine another inch. Even the teenager had fully removed one headphone now. I remember staring at her for a second, trying to figure out whether she genuinely didn't understand how insane she sounded. Because there's a social line most adults instinctively know not to cross. You don't force strangers into your parenting. You don't volunteer other people's trauma for educational entertainment. And you definitely don't publicly humiliate someone to control your child. But this woman? She looked completely comfortable. Worse, she looked pleased with herself, like she'd just come up with a brilliant idea. "Go ahead," she said encouragingly, nodding toward her daughter. "Tell her what happens when people don't brush their teeth." I could feel my heartbeat in my neck. The flipper suddenly felt loose again. My hands were shaking slightly. And the worst part? I knew exactly what was happening. This wasn't really about her child. People like her use concern as camouflage for cruelty. She wanted entertainment. She wanted superiority. She wanted to publicly reduce me into a life lesson. And I think if she had shown even 1 ounce of kindness, I probably would have lied. I would have smiled awkwardly and said something harmless like, "Yeah, brushing is important. End of interaction. Everyone moves on." But the look on her face stopped me. That look. That tiny self-satisfied expression people get when they think someone weaker can't fight back. And suddenly, after years of swallowing humiliation quietly, something inside me snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, just snapped. I looked directly at her daughter first. Because unlike her mother, the child was innocent. Then I looked back at the woman. And very calmly I said, "Well, actually." The smile on her face widened slightly. She thought she was winning. "I used to have an abusive boyfriend," I continued, "who didn't like how I smiled at him one day." Instantly her expression twitched. Not fully yet. Just slightly. Like her brain suddenly realized the conversation was going somewhere unexpected. I kept going. "So he grabbed me by the hair and slammed my face into our kitchen table over and over until my teeth broke." The room went dead silent. Not uncomfortable silence. Catastrophic silence. The kind where even background noises feel frozen. I watched the color physically drain out of her face. It was honestly surreal. 1 second she looked smug. The next she looked like someone had unplugged her soul. Her mouth opened slightly. Closed. Opened again. No words came out. Her daughter blinked up at her, confused. "Mommy." The woman stared at me like I'd just slapped her. And maybe emotionally I had. Because suddenly she wasn't looking at some careless woman with bad hygiene. She was looking at a human being she had publicly humiliated without knowing a single thing about. I could see the exact moment realization hit her. Not empathy. Embarrassment. There's a difference. Empathy makes people softer. Embarrassment makes people panic. And she panicked immediately. "Oh my God," she whispered. The older man in the waiting room looked horrified. The teenager's eyes went wide. The receptionist glanced up from behind the desk, clearly sensing tension. Meanwhile, I just sat there strangely calm. Not triumphant. Not emotional. Just tired. So incredibly tired. Because people had been making assumptions about me for over a decade. This was simply the first time one of them got forced to hear the truth. The woman suddenly grabbed her daughter's arm too quickly. "We're going," she muttered. Right at that exact moment, the dental assistant opened the hallway door. "Melissa." The timing could not have been more perfect. The woman nearly jumped out of her skin. "That's us," she blurted immediately. Then she half-dragged her daughter toward the hallway so fast the little girl almost lost one of her flashing sneakers. The assistant looked confused. The woman refused to make eye contact with anyone, especially me. And just before she disappeared into the hallway, I saw it. Anger. Not toward herself. Toward me. That's another thing cruel people do. The moment they feel shame, they immediately search for someone else to blame for causing it. In her mind, I had embarrassed her. Not the other way around. The hallway door closed behind them. Silence lingered another few seconds. Then the older man quietly muttered, Jesus Christ.
I gave a tiny awkward nod and shoved my compact mirror back into my purse. My entire body suddenly felt exhausted. Adrenaline crash. My hands started trembling harder now that the confrontation was over. The receptionist gave me this deeply sympathetic look, but thankfully didn't say anything. And honestly, I just wanted to leave. Immediately. I stood up too fast. Dizziness hit me. I steadied myself against the chair. The teenager quickly looked away, pretending not to stare. I mumbled something like, "Have a good day," then escaped out the front door into the freezing parking lot air. The second I got inside my car, I locked the doors automatically. Trauma habit. Then I just sat there gripping the steering wheel, breathing, processing. Part of me felt guilty. Not because the woman didn't deserve it. She absolutely did. But because saying the truth out loud like that always reopened something ugly inside me. I hated talking about him, even years later. Especially, unexpectedly, the memories came back too vividly afterward. The apartment, the kitchen, the sound. God, the sound. People think trauma memories work like movies. They don't. They come back in fragments. Textures, smells, specific details your brain randomly preserved forever. The cold tile floor against my knees, the metallic taste in my mouth, blood on the table edge, his breathing, that terrifying calmness afterward. I squeezed my eyes shut hard. No, not now. I'd spent years learning how to keep those memories contained, organized, locked away, and moments like that cracked the door open again. My phone buzzed suddenly, nearly making me jump. Text from my coworker Dana. "Dana, you alive over there? Dana, reminder we have that client call tomorrow morning, LOL. Dana, also Janet messed up the spreadsheet again. What is this?" Normal life, trying to continue, while my nervous system was still in full panic mode. I typed back mechanically. Me. Yeah, just leaving dentist. Me. I'll fix the spreadsheet tonight. What is this? Then I drove home. Or at least tried to. Because, unfortunately, the universe apparently decided the waiting room disaster wasn't enough stress for one day. About halfway home, I noticed a weird rattling noise in my car. At first I ignored it. My car always made strange noises. It was ancient, but then the steering started feeling slightly off. Not dangerous, just wrong. A subtle pulling sensation. I frowned and turned down the radio. The rattling got louder. Fantastic. I pulled into a gas station parking lot and checked the tires. Front passenger tire looked low. Not flat, but definitely losing air. I stared at it in exhausted disbelief. Of course today would become a full disaster. I crouched beside the tire in freezing wind, trying not to cry from sheer frustration. That's the thing about emotionally overwhelming days. Tiny inconveniences suddenly feel devastating. A low tire became proof the universe hated me personally. I called roadside assistance. 45-minute wait. Perfect. So now I was stranded in a cold gas station parking lot replaying traumatic memories while inhaling gasoline fumes. Amazing. I climbed back into the car and checked my phone mindlessly. 3 unread work emails, 1 payment reminder, and then a Facebook notification. Normally, I ignored those, but the preview made my stomach twist instantly. Message request from Brandon H. No. No. My pulse spiked immediately. I hadn't spoken to Brandon in almost 11 years. Not since court. Not since the restraining order. Not since the hospital. My fingers actually went numb holding the phone. Why now? How? I opened the message with shaking hands. It was short. Too short. Brandon. Heard you finally fixed your smile. Glad it worked out. What is this? I stopped breathing for a second. There are moments where fear doesn't feel emotional. It feels chemical, like ice water injected directly into your bloodstream. Every muscle locked instantly. How did he know? How the hell did he know? I had barely posted anything publicly. 1 photo. 1. A carefully angled, smiling selfie after the implant procedure. Private account. Mostly friends and family. I hadn't even tagged the dental office. My brain immediately started spiraling. Did someone tell him? Was he watching my account somehow? Had he been watching longer than I realized? I checked his profile instinctively. Still blocked. At least I thought so. Apparently message requests can still appear sometimes from filtered folders. My hands shook harder. The gas station suddenly felt unsafe. Everything felt unsafe. I immediately locked the car doors again, even though they were already locked. Then another thought hit me. Today. The confrontation. The story. Talking about him publicly for the first time in years. And now suddenly a message from him appears? My stomach twisted violently.
No.
Coincidence. Had to be coincidence.
Right?
Right? I stared at the message again. Glad it worked out. Something about that sentence felt wrong. Cold. Not apologetic. Not emotional. Calculated. Like someone observing from a distance. I quickly screenshotted it and sent it to my friend Rachel. Rachel was one of the only people who knew the full history. She'd helped me through the court process years ago.
Almost immediately, she called me.
Hey, she answered sharply. Why are you messaging me screenshots of Satan while I'm at work? I let out this tiny broken laugh. Then, unexpectedly, started crying. Not dramatic sobbing. Just exhausted, overwhelmed tears. Rachel's voice softened instantly. What happened?
So, I told her everything.
The dentist office. The woman. The confrontation. The message. By the end, she sounded furious. At him or her? I asked weakly. Both, she said immediately. But mostly him. Why the hell is he contacting you? I don't know. Did you respond?
No. Good.
Don't. I lean my head against the steering wheel. I feel insane right now. You're not insane. It feels weird. Of course it does. No, like, I swallowed hard. The timing. Rachel was quiet briefly. Then, you think someone from the office knew him?
No.
You think the woman somehow. No, that's crazy. Okay, then maybe it's just coincidence. Maybe. But my instincts didn't agree. Trauma rewires your body to detect danger patterns obsessively. And right now, every nerve screamed danger. Roadside assistance finally arrived.
I ended the call and tried focusing on normal tasks again. The mechanic found a nail in the tire. Patchable. Thank God. But while he worked, I kept glancing around the parking lot irrationally. Every dark SUV looked suspicious. Every stranger felt threatening. By the time I finally got home, my nerves were destroyed. I triple-locked my apartment door, checked windows, turned on lights, another trauma habit, then immediately opened my laptop to distract myself with work, spreadsheets, emails, numbers, something controllable. But concentration was impossible. My mind kept replaying everything. The woman's face, Brandon's message, that awful feeling of invisible eyes suddenly back in my life. Around 8 p.m. my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I froze, then answered cautiously. Hello? Static. Then breathing. My chest tightened. Hello? Click. Call ended. I stared at the screen. Unknown number. No voicemail. My heart pounded so hard I felt nauseous. Immediately another text arrived. Not from the unknown number. From Rachel. Rachel, I hate to freak you out, but I checked his profile. Rachel, he lives in your state now. What is this? Every muscle in my body went cold. No. He used to live 3 states away. That had been part of what helped me feel safe. Distance. Distance made healing possible. I called her instantly. What do you mean he lives here? I mean apparently he moved last year. Where? I don't know exactly. How do you know? Tagged photos. I started pacing my apartment. No. Hey, listen to me. He knows where I work. He probably doesn't. He knows my name, my social media, my face. He always knew those things. That's not helping. I know. I pressed my palm against my forehead, trying not to spiral completely. Rachel exhaled slowly. Okay, listen carefully. One message does not automatically mean danger. But, she continued firmly, You need to take this seriously anyway. I hated that she was right. Because once you survive someone violent, you never fully stop calculating risk. You never fully stop preparing escape routes. You never fully stop wondering whether safety is temporary. That night I barely slept. Every hallway noise outside my apartment startled me awake. Every car door outside made my stomach clench. At 2 a.m. I checked all my locks again. At 3 a.m. I checked Brandon's old message another 6 times, trying to decode hidden meaning from 8 stupid words. At 4 a.m. I finally drifted into shallow, exhausted sleep. Then woke up late for work. Perfect. I rushed through my morning routine in a haze. Coffee, makeup, flipper adjustment, laptop bag, keys. And when I opened my apartment door, I stopped cold. There was a package sitting outside. No shipping label, no address, just a plain brown box. My pulse exploded instantly. No, absolutely not. I stared at it for maybe 10 full seconds without moving, then slowly crouched. Inside the box was only one thing: a shattered ceramic coffee mug. That's it. White mug, broken into pieces, and written across one shard in black marker were 3 words. Still clumsy smiling? I couldn't breathe. Because that wasn't random. Years ago, during one of the earliest fights, I had accidentally dropped his favorite mug while laughing at something on television. He told me I smiled too much. Said it made me look stupid. That exact phrase, "still clumsy smiling," was something he whispered to me afterward while I cried on the kitchen floor picking ceramic pieces out of my hand. Nobody else knew that. Nobody. My knees nearly gave out. I slammed the apartment door shut immediately and locked it. Then called Rachel again with shaking hands so violent I almost dropped the phone. When she answered, I could barely speak. "There's a box." "What?" "There's a box outside my apartment." Silence. Then instantly serious. "What's in it?" I told her. The silence afterward terrified me more than if she'd screamed. Finally she whispered, "Oh my God." I slid down against the door onto the floor. "He found me." "No," she said quickly. "We don't know that." "Yes, we do. We don't know that." "But who else would?" "I know." Tears burned instantly. Not sadness, fear. Pure fear. Because suddenly all the safety I'd built over 10 years felt imaginary. Like paper walls collapsing. Rachel spoke carefully now. "You need to call the police." What do I even say? The truth. I laughed bitterly. "You mean the part where my abusive ex maybe mailed me broken dishes like a serial killer?" "Yes." I buried my face in my hands. And then came the third event. The one that shifted everything from frightening to terrifying. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. This time voicemail immediately appeared. I stared at it. Didn't want to open it. Did anyway. At first there was only static. Then a man's voice. Calm. Quiet. Almost amused. Still smiling. My blood turned to ice. Because it was him. Older. Rougher. But him. Then the voicemail ended. Just like that. I stopped moving entirely. Rachel kept talking through the phone, but her voice sounded far away now. Because suddenly something clicked into place. The timing. The message. The package. The voicemail. This wasn't random. This wasn't emotional. This wasn't impulsive. And the worst realization of all? He didn't react. Because he already had a plan. I didn't sleep that night thinking it was over. I thought the voicemail was the peak. I thought the box on the doorstep was the message. I was wrong. Because the next morning, my entire life started moving without me in it. If you're following this story, you already know it's not normal anymore. And what happens next makes everything feel coordinated. Immediate continuation. The police arrived faster than I expected. 2 officers. Calm voices. Careful eyes. The kind of calm that only exists when they've seen versions of this story 100 times before. I was still sitting on the floor by my apartment door when they knocked again. I opened it with shaking hands. I called about a package, I said immediately. One of them nodded. We're here for that. My throat tightened. And a voicemail. That got their attention slightly more. They came inside, and suddenly my apartment felt too small for what I was about to explain. I showed them everything. The box, the broken mug, the writing, the voicemail. The officer handling the evidence bag didn't react much, but the other one kept watching my face instead of the objects. That's what scared me more. Not disbelief. Recognition. Like this wasn't new information to him. Just another variation of the same pattern. Do you know who sent this? He asked. I hesitated, because saying it out loud made it real in a way I didn't want. My ex, I finally said. The word felt heavy. He wrote it down. Is there a restraining order? Years ago. Expired. Any recent contact before this week? I swallowed. A message. Then voicemail. Unknown number. He nodded slowly like he was connecting invisible dots. The second officer stepped closer to the box. Has he ever been physically violent? That question hit differently. Because it wasn't curiosity. It was risk assessment. Yes, I said quietly. A long time ago. Silence again. The first officer finally spoke. We're going to escalate this. This isn't just a harassment complaint anymore. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means we treat it as stalking behavior. The word stalking made my skin go cold. They took photos, collected the mug shards, asked for screenshots of everything, then left me with instructions. Lock everything, don't engage, report every contact, and try to maintain normal routine. That last part almost made me laugh. Normal didn't exist anymore. First strange event. I called work immediately after they left. My hands were still shaking. Dana answered. Hey, you okay? You sounded. I need to tell you something, I interrupted. I explained quickly. Too quickly. There was a long silence on her end. Then, okay, do you want to take a few days off? Yes, I said instantly. Done. I'll tell HR you're sick. I should have felt relief, but I didn't. Because when I hung up, I noticed something on my laptop. A notification I didn't recognize. My email was open, and there was a sent message. From my account. To HR. Subject line. Resignation notice. My blood ran cold. I clicked it. The email looked real. Too real. Professional tone. Correct formatting. Even my signature. But I didn't write it. My hands went numb. I refreshed the page. Still there. Sent 6:12 a.m. Before I even woke up. I stared at it for a long time. Then called Dana back. I didn't send that email. What? I didn't send it. Someone accessed my account. Her voice changed immediately. Change your password. Now. I already was. But something felt off. Because there were no login alerts. No security warnings. Nothing. Just a perfect email sitting in sent history like it belonged there. And that's when the first real crack in my logic appeared. If someone had access, they didn't just break in. They were already inside. Second worst event. I changed passwords, logged out everywhere, turned on every security setting I could find, then tried to breathe. That lasted about 10 minutes. Before my phone rang again. Unknown number. I didn't answer. It rang again, and again, then stopped. Then immediately a text came through. Not a number I recognized. Just words. Unknown. You should check your work email again. What is this? My stomach dropped instantly. No. No. I opened my laptop again, refreshed inbox, and froze. A new email. From HR. Subject. We received your resignation and wish you the best. My vision blurred slightly. I called HR immediately. The woman sounded confused. Hi, yes. Your resignation was processed this morning. No, I said sharply. I didn't resign. A pause. I'm sorry. I didn't send that email. Another pause. Then a subtle shift in tone. Well, it came from your account. I know. But I didn't write it. Long silence. That uncomfortable corporate silence where nobody wants to say hack out loud. We'll escalate it to IT, she finally said. But her voice already sounded uncertain. Like she wasn't sure whether to believe me or the system logs. After I hung up, I sat there staring at my screen. Something was wrong. Not just emotionally. Structurally. Like pieces of my life were being edited without my permission. Then my doorbell rang. I didn't move. It rang again. I checked the peephole. Empty hallway. But on the floor outside, another envelope. My heart stopped. I didn't open it immediately. I called the police again instead. They arrived 20 minutes later. The envelope was gone. Third panic level event. This is where everything stopped feeling like coincidence, because when the officers checked the hallway camera footage, there was nothing. No envelope, no delivery, no person, just me, standing in front of an empty door, confused, looking around, then going back inside. The officer rewound it twice. Same result. No one came. I asked. He frowned. According to this, no. That's impossible. He didn't respond immediately. Just kept watching the footage. Then finally said, "Do you have another entrance?" "No." He nodded slowly. But I saw it. The shift. He didn't say it out loud. But his expression changed from harassment case to something more serious. Something like, "This is no longer behaving normally." They took the report. Left again. But now they didn't reassure me. They just told me to stay inside. And that was it. No comfort. No explanation. Just containment. Social damage begins. Around noon, my phone started exploding. Messages. Calls. Voicemails. People I hadn't spoken to in years. Coworkers. Old friends. Even my former supervisor. I opened one message. "Dana, why is your resignation email circulating in HR chat groups?" "What is this?" Another. Coworker. "Hey, are you okay? People are saying you quit suddenly?" "What is this?" Then another. Unknown friend. "Did something happen? I saw your name in a weird post." "What is this?" My stomach dropped. "What post?" I whispered to myself. I opened social media and froze. Someone had posted about me. Not my name directly, but enough details. A screenshot of the resignation email. Caption. "Crazy how people just disappear from jobs without warning." And under it, comment. "People guessing, speculating, building a narrative. She probably got fired. No, she looks unstable." This happens when people can't handle pressure. I couldn't breathe properly. My identity was being rewritten publicly in real time. And I hadn't posted anything, which meant someone else was controlling the story. I scrolled faster. And then I saw it. A comment that made my stomach turn completely. "Isn't she the girl from the dental office incident?" My hands went cold. How did anyone even know that? I hadn't posted it. No one had. At least not publicly. But somehow, it was spreading. Fragments, rumors, connected dots that shouldn't exist outside that room. My phone rang again. "Rachel." I answered immediately. "I think I'm being framed," I said without greeting. Her voice was tense already. "I saw something." "What did you see?" "There's a post circulating. About the resignation. And the dentist thing." My chest tightened. "That's impossible." "It's not," she said. "It's everywhere in local groups." Local groups. Not global. Not viral. Targeted. Contain. Focused. Like someone was pushing it into specific spaces. "Rachel," I whispered, "I didn't tell anyone online about that." "I know." Silence. Then she said something that made my stomach drop even further. "Your ex knows people from your old city, right?" "Yes." "What if this isn't random?" That question sat in my chest like a stone. Because suddenly I couldn't explain anything cleanly anymore. Every event felt connected. the voicemail, the mug, the hacked email, the disappearing envelope, the social post, all of it moving too precisely, too intentionally, like a system, not chaos, design. Confusion deepens. Reality starts shifting. Around 3 p.m., the IT department called. "Your account shows no breach," they said. I blinked. I literally had a fake resignation sent. "We checked logs. No unauthorized access." "That's not possible." "We also checked device history." Another pause. Then, "Everything looks normal." My throat went dry. "Then how did the email send?" Silence. "I don't know," he admitted. That was worse than any answer. Because it meant even the systems couldn't explain it. I hung up feeling sick. Then immediately checked my email again. Nothing unusual. Everything looked clean. Too clean. Like someone had reset reality. At that exact moment, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I didn't want to answer. But I did. "Hello?" Static. Then his voice. Calm. Controlled. Almost close. "You're looking at it wrong." My entire body froze. My hand tightened around the phone. "Who is this?" I whispered. A pause. Then softly. "You already know." My breath stopped. The line went dead. Ending moment. I stood there in my apartment holding the phone, staring at the screen, trying to make sense of everything happening. The resignation that didn't exist. The camera footage that showed nothing. The posts I didn't create. The calls that knew too much. The voice that shouldn't have been there. And the worst part? Nothing felt like a mistake anymore. It felt arranged. Like I was inside something I couldn't see the edges of. My phone buzzed one more time. A new message appeared. No number. Just text. "You're reacting like it's happening to you." I stared at it. Hands shaking. Heart racing. And for the first time, a thought formed that I couldn't push away. Something is seriously wrong. I kept telling myself it was random. Emails glitch. Systems fail. People gossip. Phones spoof numbers. That's what I wanted to believe. But the more I tried to explain it logically, the more the pattern started looking like something else entirely. If you're still following this, you already know this isn't just harassment anymore. It's structure. And structure means intention. Immediate continuation. I didn't sleep after that message. Not even a minute. "You're reacting like it's happening to you." That sentence kept replaying in my head like a loop I couldn't break. Because the wording wasn't random. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't even threatening in a direct way. It was observational. Clinical. Like someone studying me. And that's what terrified me most. At 5:17 a.m., I gave up pretending I could rest and got out of bed. My apartment felt different. Not physically. Nothing had changed. But everything felt watched. Like the space had been reinterpreted. I checked every corner again. Closets, windows, doors. Even places I knew were empty. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I pulled out an old box from my storage shelf. The one I never opened. Inside were documents I had avoided for almost a decade. Court papers, medical reports, police statements, the life I buried. My hands shook as I spread them across the floor. And that's where the pattern began to emerge. Not all at once. Slowly. Like pieces rising from underwater. First connection, the timing. The first thing I noticed was the timeline. I stared at it for a long time. Then whispered, "No." Because it didn't make sense. The dental office incident. The broken mug. The voicemail. The resignation email. All of it happened within a sequence that wasn't chaotic. It was spaced. Measured. Almost staged. Every event followed another by just enough time for me to react before the next one hit. Like, event emotional spike recovery attempt next disruption. Not random. Controlled pacing. My stomach tightened. I flipped the papers over. Another detail. The original restraining order had expired exactly 14 months ago. And exactly 14 months ago, was when I started posting small updates again online. Nothing personal, just progress, healing, smile photos, dental progress, life rebuilding. I swallowed hard. Was that when it started? The thought made my chest tighten, because I had assumed I was rebuilding in private. But I wasn't. I was visible. Second connection, the access. I opened my laptop again, checked everything, emails, accounts, social media, bank alerts. Everything looked normal. But normal was no longer reassuring. It was suspicious, because normal had already lied to me once. I went deeper. Account login history. And that's where I saw it. Something small, almost invisible. A login attempt from a device labeled Unknown Workstation 04. Location, same city. Time, 3:12 a.m. I froze. That was the night before the resignation email appeared. I clicked details. It showed failed login. But underneath it, a second line. Session token issued. My hands went cold. What does that even mean? I whispered. I wasn't tech expert, but I knew enough to understand one thing. A failed login shouldn't issue anything. I took screenshots immediately. Sent them to Rachel. She replied instantly. Rachel, this doesn't look like hacking. Rachel, it looks like access was already authorized somehow. What is this? My stomach dropped. What does that mean? I typed back. Her reply came slower this time. Rachel, I don't know. Rachel, but someone didn't break in. Rachel, they walked in through something already open. What is this? I stared at that message for a long time. Already open. That phrase stuck. Because it meant something terrifying. The breach wasn't new. It was old. Third connection, the social spread. I tried to focus on work again. I couldn't. So I checked the social media posts again. The ones spreading my resignation. But now I noticed something I missed before. The comments weren't random. They were clustered. Certain usernames kept appearing. Same tone. Same phrasing. Same structure. Not organic. Coordinated. Then I noticed something worse. A reply thread under the dentist post. She probably made it up for attention. People exaggerate abuse stories all the time. Yeah, I saw her at that clinic, she seemed fine. My breathing slowed, because I recognized something in the wording. Not exact sentences, but style, tone, dismissing, minimizing, reframing, the same pattern. And then one comment stood out. Not attacking me, not defending me, just observing. Funny how her story always shows up when people question her. I frowned. What does that mean? I muttered. Then I saw it. A linked thread. Old forum post. My name wasn't fully there, but enough. Someone had compiled fragments of my past. Not my writing, not my post, but references, mentions, indirect traces, and all of it was being shaped into a narrative I didn't recognize. A pattern forming without my input. I felt sick, because suddenly I wasn't just dealing with harassment. I was dealing with construction. Someone wasn't reacting to my life. They were rewriting it. Flashbacks began surfacing. And then it hit me. Not like a memory. Like a collapse. A flashback I didn't choose. The kitchen. Years ago. Broken glass. His voice. Calm. Too calm. You always make everything look like something it isn't. I remembered freezing. Back then, I thought he meant argument. Now I wasn't sure. Because that sentence felt different in this context. I shook my head violently. No, 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 no. I stood up quickly. Started pacing. Trying to break the thought loop. But it kept growing. Another memory surfaced. The mug incident. Not the broken one. The earlier version. When he corrected how I smiled in photos. You smile like you're performing, he had said. At the time I thought it was controlling. Now it sounded analytical. Like observation. Not emotion. My hands started trembling again. Stop, I whispered to myself. Stop connecting things. But I couldn't. because the connections were already forming on their own. Hidden pattern emerges. I went back to the timeline again, this time more carefully, and I saw it. Each major disruption aligned with something I did. Not just reactions, actions. Posting a smile photo, talking about recovery, going public about implants, speaking in the waiting room. Each moment of visibility triggered escalation. My stomach turned. No, I whispered. That can't be real. But the pattern didn't care what I believed. It just existed. And then something even worse clicked. The dentist waiting room incident. The moment everything escalated. The woman. The confrontation. I remembered her face clearly now. Not just embarrassment, but timing. She arrived. She engaged. She escalated. Like she had been waiting for a trigger. My hands froze midair. What if, I whispered. What if she wasn't random? I immediately rejected the thought. That's insane. That's paranoia. But then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I didn't answer. Message came anyway. Unknown, you're getting closer. What is this? I dropped the phone. Fear plus regret intensifies. I sat on the floor again. Same position as before. But now it didn't feel like shock. It felt like descent. Because I was starting to see something I didn't want to see. Not just harassment. Not just stalking. But architecture. Every event had structure. Every reaction had timing. Even my confusion felt expected. And the worst part? I realized I had been participating in it. Reacting exactly how someone would expect me to react. Calling police. Contacting friends. Checking accounts. Trying to explain things logically. Every move I made fit perfectly into a response model. I felt nauseous. What is happening to me? I whispered. Then another realization hit. Brandon's message. Glad it worked out. I had assumed it was mocking. But now I wasn't sure. Because what if it wasn't reaction? What if it was acknowledgement? My breathing became uneven. No, no, no. I stood up again. Went to the window. Looked outside. Nothing unusual. Just street. Cars. Normal life. But normal now felt like a cover layer over something deeper. My phone buzzed again. Rachel calling. I answered immediately. Tell me I'm crazy, I said before she could speak. Silence. Then, I can't. My stomach dropped. What? I checked something, she said quietly. What did you check? My old contacts, from when I helped you with the case. My heart slowed. And, another pause. Then, one of them is gone. What do you mean gone? No account. No history. Nothing. I frowned. That doesn't make sense. It was a detective, she said. Silence. My blood turned cold. And now I can't find any record of him. My throat went dry. That's not possible. I know. A long pause. Then she said something that made everything collapse slightly further. But I remember him clearly. End moment, high tension. I stood there in my apartment, phone pressed to my ear, feeling the world shift slightly out of alignment. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just wrong. Like something fundamental wasn't matching anymore. Rachel's voice was low. Careful. I think, she started. Then stopped. What? I whispered. Another pause. I think someone has been removing parts of the record. My chest tightened. Why would anyone do that? Silence. Then she said, I don't know. And for the first time, I realized I was no longer trying to understand a person. I was trying to understand a system. And systems don't react emotionally. They execute. My phone buzzed one last time. Unknown message. Only 3 words. You're almost there. I stared at it, hands shaking, heart pounding, because now I wasn't just scared. I was aware. Aware that something was being built around me. Something I couldn't fully see yet. And for the first time, I thought, something is seriously wrong. I thought I was being hunted. I thought my life was collapsing into random attacks, emails, messages, posts, voicemails, but I was wrong about one thing the entire time. It wasn't chaos. It was confirmation. If you're still watching this story unfold, hit like, comment what you think was happening, and subscribe, because this is where everything finally connects. The turning point. I didn't sleep after Rachel's last call. I just sat there, phone in hand, waiting for the next message. And it came. Not a threat. Not a warning. Just an invitation. Unknown. Come see it clearly. What is this? And then an address. Not mine. Not random. Familiar. The old dental clinic building. My stomach dropped instantly, because that was the place everything started to unravel. And now it was calling me back. The arrival. I shouldn't have gone. That was the first thought. But I went anyway, because fear eventually turns into curiosity when it's stretched long enough. The building looked different at night. Too quiet. Too clean. Like it was waiting. Inside, the lights were on. Reception empty. No staff. Just silence. And a single chair placed in the center of the waiting room. On it, a folder. My name written on it. The full reveal begins. Inside the folder, printouts, screenshot, messages, my entire recent life, organized, chronological, but not just collected, curated. Then I saw something that made my stomach twist. A diagram, boxes, arrows, my life, map. Each event I thought was random, was connected, not loosely, directly. I whispered, "No." And then I saw the title at the top of the page. Stability Disruption Model. Subject 01. My hands went cold. Subject. Not victim. Subject. Flashbacks rewritten. Everything started reshaping in my mind. The voicemail. The timing. The post. The resignation email. The mug. Even the dentist woman. It all wasn't reactive. It was trigger-based sequencing. Every time I stabilized emotionally, something disrupted it. Every time I rebuilt confidence, something fractured it. Not to destroy me, but to measure me. My breathing became shallow. "This isn't real," I whispered. But it was printed, organized, proven, documented. The truth about the antagonist. A voice came from behind me. Calm. Familiar. Not angry. Not emotional. Just factual. "You always thought I was reacting." I froze. Didn't turn yet. The voice continued. "But I was documenting." My hands trembled. Slowly I turned. And there he was. Not the version in my memory. Not violent. Not chaotic. Calm. Composed. Almost clinical. Brandon. Chaos peaks. My voice broke instantly. You can't be here." He nodded slightly. "I've been here longer than you think." My mind couldn't process it. "You sent the emails?" "Yes." "The posts?" "Yes." "The voicemail?" "Yes." I stepped back. "That's insane." He tilted his head slightly. "No. It's structured." My breath became uneven. "What do you want from me?" And that's when everything cracked open. He gestured to the folder. "You think this is revenge?" I didn't answer. "It isn't," he said softly. "It's observation." My stomach dropped. "You destroyed my life." He corrected me instantly. I mapped it. Silence. Then he said the sentence that changed everything. "You were never unpredictable. You were responsive." The emotional breakdown. My knees weakened slightly. "No," I whispered. "You think I'm doing this to hurt you," he continued. "But I've never changed your outcome." My voice shook. "Why me?" A pause. Then, "Because you survived." That hit harder than anything else. He stepped closer to the folder. "You rebuilt. Slowly. Carefully. Consistently." His eyes met mine. And I needed to understand how. My breathing stopped. "You studied me," I whispered. He corrected again. "I studied recovery patterns." The real twist. Then came the truth I wasn't ready for. "You were never my target," he said. I froze. I was your variable. Silence collapsed the room. Everything I believed flipped. The harassment, the messages, the posts. Not punishment, not obsession. Data collection. He continued. You didn't notice because it always looked like coincidence. My voice cracked. So what am I? A pause. Then softly. The most stable recovery profile I've ever observed. My world tilted. The final break. My chest tightened. You ruined my life. No, he said calmly. I tested its structure under pressure. I shook my head violently. That's not normal. He nodded. I agree. Silence again. Then he added. But it worked. That was worse. Because there was no anger. No emotion. Just completion. Acceptance moment. Something inside me shifted. Not understanding. Not forgiveness. Just exhaustion. Years of fear. Years of confusion. Years of trying to make sense of invisible patterns. All collapsing into one realization. I was never fighting randomness. I was inside an experiment I never consented to. I sat down slowly. My voice barely worked. So what now? He looked at me for a long moment. Then, nothing. I blinked. Nothing. He nodded. Observation complete. Then he closed the folder and walked out. Silence returns. I stayed there. Hours. Maybe longer. The building slowly becoming just a building again. No more patterns. No more messages. No more calls. Just silence. Real silence. The kind that feels heavier than noise. Eventually I stood up. Walked outside. Cold air hit my face. Normal world still existed. Cars. Lights. People living unaware. And for the first time, I wasn't scared. Just empty. Deep life lesson. Some people think chaos is random. But sometimes chaos is structured. Sometimes pain is not emotional. It's procedural. And sometimes the hardest truth is not that someone wanted to hurt you, but that someone saw you as a system to study. Not because you were weak, but because you survived in a way that could be measured. And that changes everything. Final moment. My phone buzzed one last time. Unknown number. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. Because now I understood something simple. The story wasn't continuing. It was already finished. If you watched this far, like the video, comment your thoughts on what just happened, and subscribe for more intense Reddit-style stories.